We're now joined by our good friend Jens Audenaert, who is a Division Vice President, General Manager, Workmarket at ADP. Good to see you, Jens.
Great to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me back on the show.
You got it. By the way, check out steveadubato.org to check out the last interview Jens did with us. Last time we talked diversity, inclusion. Forget about 2020. We're doing this in the end of 2020. In 2021, in the workplace, what does diversity and inclusion really mean? Not with the rhetoric, but the reality of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more important than ever for organizations to really embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion in 2021. And ADP obviously does a lot of research with our client base and with the employees of our client base. And it was one of the top 5 trends that we identified for 2021, really for companies to look at diversity and inclusion and equity. And so we talked about this last time, but diversity is really the representation of underrepresented minorities. And obviously after 2020, there's a lot of focus on Black communities and communities of color, but also that inclusion, really having this culture and this value set that embraces differences. And a lot of people now are also talking about equity. And that's really making sure that you not only have the representation, but that they have equal access to opportunities, that they get promoted in the same way, that they get paid equally to their counterparts. And so I think that's going to be a big focus that we're going to see this year, but definitely also going forward.
Jens, how has COVID-19 impacted this initiative, this effort, this commitment to a culture of diversity and inclusion?
I actually think at the onset of COVID, a lot of organizations, ADP included, had all of their employees, for us, that's 58,000 employees globally, almost overnight work from home. And I think that some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives, and specifically business resource groups, which are really these initiatives that are voluntary and employee-led, were really an asset in this time where employees were working from home in less than ideal circumstances. They might have personal anxiety. And so it was a great avenue for them to connect with these other employees in these business resource groups, to find support, to remain engaged while all of this was going on. And so I think that our 10 business resource groups at ADP were really an asset as we were trying to kind of move from being in the office to completely running this organization from home.
You know, we've had many conversations with the folks at ADP. They support what we do, our commitment to diversity and inclusion. But the term intersectionality, it feels and sounds jargony to me, but I'd like you to make it real, Jens, so that people go, oh, that's what Jens is talking about. That's what Steve's talking about. Because I hear it a lot, but I want to make sure people understand it. Intersectionality.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting concept, and it's a big word. It's really thinking about all of the different aspects of someone's social identity, if you will. So we often think about things like gender and gender identity, race, sexual orientation. It's a lot of other things too. It could be religion, age, ability, immigration status. All of those different things really create someone's identity. And that's really what's going to determine if you're sometimes advantaged or disadvantaged. And so I think it's very important for HR leaders, for D&I professionals to really start looking at that intersectionality. So to make it very concrete, you can look at the pay gap between, let's say, men and women, and find in a certain organization that women are underpaid. But if your women are disproportionately of color, unless you actually look at all the different aspects, you don't know whether you have a pay gap based on gender or on race. And so
or age as well.
Or
I'm sorry
age,
to interrupt,
yeah,
or age as well. You may not realize this, Jens, but I'm older than you. Don't laugh so hard, okay? But age is part of it, is it not?
Age is part of it, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, real quick on this, I know we talked a little bit about this last time, but it's important. 30 seconds on ADP Pride.
So ADP Pride is our business resource group, as I alluded to earlier. Those are really employee-led voluntary groups, and they always focus on a certain area. So for ADP Pride, that's really fostering diversity and inclusion for LGBTQ plus employees at ADP. And so we obviously also involve our straight allies in that effort.
How much progress are we making as it relates to the LGBTQ community and the things that need to be done, the policy changes, the culture changes, the societal changes? Loaded, I know. How much progress, in your view, have we really made in the last couple of years?
It's obviously very uneven across the globe. And if you look at the US, it's uneven across organizations. I think corporations are doing a great job. As we discussed last time, the 1964 Civil Rights Act doesn't really include workplace protection for LGBTQ plus employees. And so I think companies need to continue, and many already do, but there's still mid-sized and small companies that need to continue to really have the right workplace protections in place and look at the right HR policies and benefits. Or large organizations like ADP, we have a perfect score on the Human Rights Campaign for 11 years in a row now. So we have all of that in place. But as we talked about before, I think everyone can always continue to up their game on really having that inclusive culture, that equity across all the different employees. And again, that focus on intersectionality. So we did a lot after the tragic killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, really looking at what is it like for our Black LGBTQ plus associates and those of color, and really focusing there as well.
Yeah. The commitment to diversity and inclusion does not take a vacation because of COVID. I just want to be clear. That's not an editorial statement. It's just a fact. So Jens Audenaert, who is in fact Division Vice President, General Manager, Workmarket at Workmarket at ADP. Jens, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Keep educating us in this area, and we all have a lot of work to do. Thank you, Jens.
Thanks so much, Steve. Stay safe.
Same to you. I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, NJM Insurance Group, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, Investors Bank, RWJ Barnabas Health, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, New Jersey Sharing Network, the North Ward Center, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association and by AM 970 The Answer.
If you need to see a doctor, RWJ Barnabas Health has 2 easy ways to do it from anywhere. You can see an urgent care provider 24/7 on any device with our Telemed app. Or use our website to book a virtual visit with an RWJ Barnabas Health Medical Group provider or specialist, even as a new patient. You've taken every precaution, and so have we, so don't delay your care any longer. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.